with yet another snowstorm that I'm waiting out, I decided today would be the perfect day to go back and check out some of the horses available on a special Buy It Now auction through the BLM. My favorites list is getting a little bit congested, but there are some on it that will be available in this special event. This special group of Mustangs will be available from the 10th of February through the 19th, and they only have one pickup, which is located at the Boise Corrals in Idaho. This handsome dude has been up for adoption 3 separate times, so he is actually available for sale at this event. Unlike the regular auction adoptions, this Buy It Now allows people to buy a horse for the regular $125 fee on a first-come, first-served basis. It looks like this guy does have a hip brand, even though it's a little bit hard to see since he is white, but that just indicates that he may be destined for long-term holding if he doesn't get adopted at this auction. Although I really love the looks of this guy, he is a little bit too reactive for a horse for me at this point in time. The eligibility window for competing in the Mustang Champions event is still open until I think it's the beginning of April. Even though I am on the injured list right now, I am still dreaming about maybe participating in it this year. There are a few older Mustangs like this girl that have been on my list for a while. This girl went through the last internet adoption and nobody decided to pick her up. At 10 years old and just plain brown, she is not the kind of horse that most people are interested in buying. She also does have a hip brand. While this girl does have a hip brand, it does look like she hasn't been up for sale 3 times, so she is not available for sale yet. One thing that's really nice about this platform is you can ask questions to the people that know these horses. If I go into my auction history, you can see that I am approved for just one horse at this point, and I can go look at any questions that I have submitted in the past. There were quite a few horses during the last internet adoption event that I had seen in person in Billings last summer, and I was really interested in bidding on one of them, but unfortunately the time of year makes it really hard for me to make a 7-hour drive. Boise is also about 7 hours from me, but there is a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel this winter. We are supposed to be getting above freezing temperatures in a couple of days, so a trip down there might not be out of the cards for me. It looks like they do have some of the horses that will be available for the next regular internet adoption still listed. There are quite a few pickup options available for the East Coast and the Midwest. There are no pickups close to me, so if I want to get a horse this spring, this Buy It Now program is probably the best option for me. Another super cute mare that I've had my eye on is this mare from Sand Springs. She's a little bit of a lean looking horse, but I think probably she's plumped up for the winter. These videos do get recycled, and this girl I think has been through 1, maybe 2 other internet adoptions and just hasn't gotten picked up yet. My very favorite Mustang that I've ever gentled and started under saddle was from Sand Springs, and this girl looks a lot like her. She did take quite a while to mature, and she was about 6 years old until she grew full size. It looks like I have about an hour left to peruse these horses before the bidding is open for the Buy It Now event. I have gone through the last couple of days and picked out some of my favorite horses. Since I would really love to compete in some type of Mustang competition this year, I did pick out a few older horses that could be a possibility. I really love the look of this girl. She has super cute little teddy bear ears that are from being frostbitten at some point while she was out on the range. Compared to some of the other Mustangs I see, she does have a pretty nice wither, which is something that you really need to consider when you're trying to get the best riding horse you can. It looks like underneath the little splashes of mud, she does have 4 white socks and a big white blaze, and that is just a really flashy color. When I'm looking for a horse to be a competition Mustang, they do have to be a little bit calmer than the ones I would typically pick. Pickup for these horses will be the second week in March, so that would give me 4 solid months of training before the first Champions event in Las Vegas. That is a pretty short timeline, but it's still longer than the typical makeover deadline that I have been used to using. If I could get a Mustang that doesn't require a lot of downtime in the beginning, then I think I'll be able to stay within the timeline and make it to the competition without being too embarrassed about how the horse's training is coming along. It seems like a lot of people have the same idea that I did. They are perusing the website and kind of slowing it down a bit. This is one of my favorite older mares that are available in this adoption, and she has one of the lowest number of views that I saw. With her being 10 years old and relatively short because she's 14.3, it does make her a little bit less desirable. One thing that really stood out to me with this horse is how low the swirl on her forehead is. It just indicates she might be a little bit calmer. Hopefully that is something that I'll see when I look at her video. Her photos also showed her to have a really good body carriage without even trying, so that's something that I'll take into consideration, because an arena horse, you do want them to be able to carry their bodies properly so they can execute advanced maneuvers more easily. This girl reminds me a whole lot of Studman. They are basically identical. She's about 3 inches taller than him though. And when I went to check out her video, I was not disappointed in how her temperament seemed to be. This big roly-poly mare is my ideal type of horse. The only thing that I can really fault her on is she does show a little bit of weakness in her stifles. When evaluating these horses though, you do have to take everything into consideration, and her seemingly more calm temperament kind of negates anything that I see with her soundness. Some horses that I checked out, I knew immediately after watching just a few steps of the video that they were not going to be what I was looking for, like this guy. On the flip side, there are a handful of horses that I know are going to get snapped up in the first few seconds that this auction is open, and this guy is one of them. If you guys have seen any of my other auction videos, you know that I was trying really hard to get a super cute one-eared Palomino. He was actually available at another Buy It Now adoption, and I tried to buy him at that and I just was not fast enough. You have to be extremely fast to get one of these horses, especially one that looks as cute as this guy. In addition to his very striking color, he is from a pretty well sought after HMA, and he looks like he is going to be a gigantic horse when he grows up. It's fun to look at these horses, but in all reality, I probably will not try and get one of these more sought after horses. I do want to keep track of how quickly they get adopted though. Another really striking horse they have available is this 2-year-old gelding. For a lot of these younger horses, they are going to be born in the facility, so this might be the very first time they're available for adoption, and holy cow, this guy is gorgeous. Even covered in dingleberries, you can see his really pretty buckskin dapple coat show through. He is also going to be a really big horse when he's done growing. I have no doubt that this guy is going to get snapped up pretty early on too, but I'm just going to put a favorite on him so I can see how it all shakes out. Another one that is likely to get snapped up in the first few seconds is this really pretty Palomino. Compared to that buckskin though, I do think that she is not built quite as good as him. I have noticed over the last couple internet adoptions, I'll look at the really flashy colored horses and then go back and look at all the plain brown ones, and I can almost always find a brown one that has better conformation and a better temperament than some of these really flashy ones. A lot of these babies are from Twin Peaks, and they were born at the other Idaho facility. Even though they've never actually been wild, they are still wild horses, and these can be a good option for someone that has maybe never had a Mustang before. I do have a friend that is looking for a younger horse, so I'm going to go through and look at some of the other ones they might be interested in. I had this super cute sorrel listed. He is 14.3 now. He probably really won't turn 2 until the late spring, early summer, and he is going to be a big boy as well. Since I'm a sucker for a plain brown horse, I definitely had to check this one out, but as I was watching him move around the pen, there was something that caught my eye that I was a little bit worried about. If you are going to be shopping for these horses online, it is really important to be able to sharpen your eyes so you can see any big issues that might prevent future soundness. I had to rewind and replay this a couple of times because sometimes the camera angle can make these horses look a little bit different, but his leg is definitely not straight. You can see it kind of bows out as he steps on it, and I think I might be able to replay it and then slow it down for you guys so you can see exactly what it is I'm seeing. One really nice thing about these videos is you can slow it down to half speed or 25% speed so you can really see if there's any gait abnormalities. I definitely wouldn't have been able to see this unless the camera was pointing at the exact right spot when he was straight on the camera. And right here you can definitely see that he is a little bit bowed out in the knee. Horses have a lot of little carpal bones in their knees, so it is pretty easy actually to get crooked up there when they're young. If this horse was a domestic horse, there would be some things you could do to maybe try and mitigate that, but given his age, there might not be a whole lot you could do to fix it. Since there are so many horses available, if I notice anything that might impede their future soundness, I am always going to pass or have an abundance of caution when I'm suggesting them to another person. This little red one was one that was at the very top of my list. He is super cute. He is only listed as 13.3 hands, which is quite short. If you watch my channel regularly, Whiplash is actually only 13.3 hands. This guy is listed as 2 years old, so if that measurement is correct, he should grow quite a bit more. A lot of times when people are searching these auctions, they do filter by a certain height, so that might be why he hasn't gotten a lot of views yet. Given how long his tail is though, I think he was probably born late spring, early summer, so he is really not even 2 yet. My friend that's looking for a horse is really interested in a buckskin or a pinto, so I'm just going to filter by that and see what might be available for her. There is one that she really wants, and I definitely think it's probably the best buckskin out of the bunch, but I sent her this one. Although this horse is a little bit older, she is super flashy. She's got one blue eye, a huge blaze, and a kind of funky sock up front. This girl also has a hip brand for long-term holding, but I would be really surprised if she doesn't get snapped up really quickly. She is a really pretty color and her conformation is quite nice as well. In the domestic horse world, there are a lot of people that will never buy a horse that's over 10 years old, which is crazy. I think the same thing is true for a lot of people that buy Mustangs. This girl is from Twin Peaks. She's 15 hands and she's only been in holding for 2 years. It's pretty likely that this mare was gathered with a foal at her side and bred back. So they had to wait for her to give birth and then wean her foal for her to be put up for adoption. If I thought she wasn't going to get scooped up immediately, I would have my eyes on her as a competition horse. I think even though she's a little bit older, she is looking pretty calm and I think she would be pretty easy to train. She seems like she's a little bit more cerebral. She's got a nice floaty trot and she isn't too frantic about anything. This is a really good combination for an arena horse, especially one that you're trying to move through training a little bit on the quicker side. It does look like she's available to purchase now, so she must have been up for adoption several times. Maybe they were having some adoptions in person that she didn't get scooped up at, but I do not remember seeing her available at the online adoptions. Probably the cutest little one in the adoption this time is this little brown one. This is another 2-year-old, and something interesting about this little guy is they did his video with the camera person inside the round pen. And you can tell they probably had a hard time moving her around because she is really not too scared of humans. I sent this along to some of my Mustang friends that may be interested in gentling down one that's a little bit more on the docile side. This one is pretty small as well, and there's a chance she was born much later in the year. They do have a date listed for the birth on these horses, but I noticed that they're all the same date, so I think they must just put that down for all of the ones that are born in holding for that year. Since I have really been getting the itch to compete with a Mustang this year, I went back and looked over some of the older ones that might not be as desirable as the younger ones. This girl was one of my top picks for a competition horse, but I think with her coloring, she is going to get picked up pretty quickly when the bidding opens. Another one that I was really interested in is this black and white girl. She is a little bit on the taller side at 15.1. She's got a really good coloring, but she's a tad more reactive than the last one. This girl also has a hip brand that kind of really pops with her black and white coloring. I noticed this girl had a double swirl, which can mean that they have a split personality, but after going through her video, I think she would be a good pick for me. I couldn't tell if this was some damage to her hind end or if it was the way the shadow was flowing, but I really like the looks of this girl. She kind of reminded me of Scarlet. Another really striking one that I saw was this black horse. She seemed pretty calm, and I think she would look really nice shined up going around in a little cow horse pattern. I've always heard that the Twin Peaks horses were a little bit on the taller side, and at 15.3, this girl is one of the taller Mustangs that I've seen available. Another little buckskin that I looked at for my friend was this one that should get at least 15 hands as well. The one really nice thing about the buy it now, if you can actually get the horse bought, is you're only paying $125, whereas during a regular internet adoption, it is a competitive bid, so you could end up paying tons more. A horse like this one is probably going to be sold for around the $800 to $1,000 or more range. It's kind of hard to tell. I've watched a few of the last ones, and some of the high prices you can guess, and some of them are a little bit of a surprise. After going through all of the horses, I just keep coming back to this cute little guy. He is relatively calm. He doesn't seem overly reactive to everything that's going on. For me, he is one that I would personally love to bring home and just train up and keep for a very long time. There are quite a few young horses available in this Buy It Now adoption, and I kept getting two of them confused. It is really important though that you can tell the difference between two similar horses and how that might make them a little bit more desirable than the next. This one is a 2-year-old. I would call him black, but he's a little bit either sun bleached or mineral deficient. He's going around with his head pretty high. He's a little bit on the reactive side, but not too much. There is another horse that looks almost identical to this one, and I was having trouble separating them. They are basically the same color, they're from the same place, they're the same age, but there's a big difference, I think, in their temperament and how they just act in the pen. There isn't a huge difference that you can see in the videos, especially if you haven't looked at a lot of these younger Mustangs go around the pen. But in my opinion, this one would be the better buy because he's a little bit more calm. Instead of being so high-headed and flighty, he's got his nose down. He's kind of investigating. Part of that could be the horses next to him, but his video is a lot louder and there's a lot more noise happening than the other horse. I know it's going to be really hard for some of you guys that don't look at horses very often to tell the difference, so I'm going to do a side-by-side for you, so maybe you'll be able to see that there is quite a big difference between these two 2-year-olds. They are calling this guy brown as well, but I think he is actually black and will look a lot different with some proper nutrition. The horse on the right is the one we just saw, and then the one on the left is the one we saw first, and you can see he is just a little bit more reactive and excited about everything that's going on. He's less inquisitive, and that alone would make me want to kind of get the one on the right a little bit more. Of course, I'm only seeing a snapshot in time, so you can get there and go to pick up the horse, and it's very different from the 30-second video that you saw, but somehow you got to narrow down your top pick, so this is just how I do it. We are getting closer and closer to the time the auction starts, so I need to go through my list and get rid of most of the ones that I don't have any interest in. Since they do open this auction the middle of the day, my friend is not able to bid, so I will actually be trying to win this buckskin for her. She was actually one of my favorites. She is a 2-year-old from Twin Peaks. She is a really pretty buckskin color, and she should mature to above 15 hands. And if we dip in and watch her video, she does seem to be on the calmer side with some really good movement. She is so outgoing that she actually goes over and gives the camera person a little sniff. This is exactly the kind of temperament that I would want to see in a young Mustang. It just makes them a little bit easier to gentle down if they're curious and outgoing. The last Buy It Now, I didn't even get the opportunity to put a bid in. I was just too slow in the first couple of seconds. This time I'm feeling a lot more prepared, so as the time starts counting down, I'm getting a little bit more excited about placing a bid, even if I am not going to bring one of these horses home. This cute little sorrel would be coming home with me if I needed a 2-year-old right now, but since I don't, I'm just going to let somebody else bid on him. At the last minute, my friend wanted me to take another look at this gelding because she might want a gelding instead of a filly. While he is a really good looking horse, I think she'll have more fun with this filly. There are less than 2 minutes on the clock before bidding opens, and I am really going to try my hardest to get in the very first bid the first second that the auction opens. I can definitely feel the tension bidding, even though this horse isn't for me. After I adopt her, I can have the papers transferred to my friend. It's actually pretty simple. For some reason, I thought this girl was from the Twin Peaks, but she's actually from Triple B, which I think they are kind of close together geographically. My friend did really want a Twin Peaks horse, so I might go back and bid on this gelding instead. After a little bit of back and forth and testing to make sure I just could not adopt these horses now, I went back and settled on bidding on this filly for my friend. I am pretty excited now. There's only a few seconds left and I am ready to pull the trigger on this super sweet little girl. I was sure I got the very first bid on this horse, but it looked like I had to refresh the page. And when I went back in to buy the horse, it looked like somebody snatched her up right before my brain could calculate that I needed to confirm my bid. I definitely blew it. I did not get that far in the last buy it now, so I wasn't really sure what to expect. And when I went back for my second choice, all of the young horses that I was really interested in were already snapped up. It's been about a week since the bidding opened for the buy it now section. Out of 180 horses that were available, it looks like there are now around 120 that are still available for adoption. I am going to think really hard about the possibility of just adopting one of these older girls to do the Champions event. A few of my favorites are still here, and this is my last opportunity this year to participate. But because I am not at 100% right now, I am going to have to put this dream on hold for a few more months. Thank you so much for watching and stay tuned for the next video.